Okay, let's see if we can go ahead and get started here.
If I can have your attention,
Whatever the signal is for flying, here we go. All right. Well, welcome everyone to the second air contact for Snow Creek Academy. My name is John Clute. My amateur radio call is K4SCC, Sierra Quebec Charlie, and I'm the Ariss mentor. I was involved in helping to put this contact together. Ariss stands for Amateur Radio on the International Space Station, and this is an activity that's been going on actually for a few decades now, wherein we use the capabilities of amateur radio to allow
students, such as those you hear and the students sitting behind me, to talk to an astronaut on the International Space Station. If you direct your attention to the screen here, this is a plot of where the ISS is right now. The blue circle shows that the ISS right now, it looks like, is leaving Australia and heading towards us over the Pacific Ocean.
what they enjoy about ham radio with people like the students what they enjoy about ham radio with people. You're fortunate to have what they enjoy about ham radio with people like the students what they enjoy about ham radio with people like the students what they enjoy about ham. They've been working really hard. I would like to thank them. They've been working really hard. John, Jim, Mike. I would like to thank they've been working really hard. John, everyone else who's I would like to thank they've been working objects.
The satellite tracking program we are using works out a complicated set of mathematics to provide the orbital location of the space station moment by moment as it moves through space. This
Then they had to talk with the planners at NASA's Johnson Space Center. The cruise time is pretty full, so they were able to find a time that could work for the crew members' schedules. Once they found times that would work both in space and here on the ground, the host organized this contact. And in just a few minutes, you'll be hearing and talking to the astronauts.
Well, it's almost time for your contact. It will be exciting, so good luck with it.
Ruth, KM4LAO, actually has a very strong connection to this part of Georgia. She's been a member of both the North Fulton and the Gwinnett radio clubs, and I think she knows some of you here. And so in addition to this video, Ruth produced a short video that she wanted us to share with you as a special welcome to you all here at Mill Springs.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ruth Willett, and my amateur radio call sign is KM4LAO. I am so excited that you all get to do an ARISS contact today. I wish I could be there in person to experience the thrill of this contact with many good friends. I'm a college student at Kettering University in Michigan, but before I came to school, my hometown was right near you in Georgia. I have so many dear friends that you are meeting today in the North Fulton Amateur Radio League and the Gwinnett Amateur Radio Society who are working hard to make sure this contact goes smoothly. I want to give a big shout out to all the amateur radio operators there because they're doing a great job to make sure that you can talk with an astronaut on the International Space Station. Daryl, K4RGK, and Lori, K4UPI, are running that amateur radio station you're going to be talking through today. John, K4SQC, is your ARISS mentor. Norm, WA4ZXB, and many others from the Gwinnett Amateur Radio Society are there supporting and helping as needed, and there's so many more that I don't have the time to name. You all are awesome. I love learning from and working with you, and I hope you have a unique thrill of satisfaction from making this ARISS contact happen. And students, I'm good friends with one of your teachers, W4MSA, Martha. She's introduced me to a number of your peers over the years, including Josh, who gets to ask a question today. I am jealous, man. That is so cool. I know you all are really excited for this to happen. Back when I was in high school, I was on a weekly amateur radio net with many of your peers from Mill Springs. I love hearing about what you all are up to at school. I hope that this contact can spark your interest in amateur radio through the amazing activities we get to do. I know you all are going to have a lot of fun today, so enjoy the unique experience of talking with an astronaut on the International Space Station. I hope I can talk with some of you next time I'm in Georgia. Good luck to everyone making this contact happen. 73 from Michigan.
So let's see where we are right now. The ISS, it looks like, is approaching, it's still over the Pacific. It appears to be approaching the coast of Alaska, which means that it's not that far away. We're probably about 7 to 10 minutes from the contact. Some interesting facts about the ISS. As you know, it was built in multiple pieces. It's extremely large. You notice the big solar panels? Well, those provide all the sun. They sit in the sun and they provide all the electricity that the ISS needs. Ruth referenced in her talk the scheduling process, and she made it sound very easy. The astronauts themselves are very, very busy, and so we're actually very lucky that they were able to volunteer their time to help us with this. Astronauts are scheduled on 5-minute intervals. Can you imagine what it would be like to have someone, maybe your teacher, telling you every 5 minutes what you were supposed to be doing and making sure you got on to the next task? I can't imagine that, but that's what the astronauts have to live with, is a schedule that's, like I said, it's set up on 5-minute blocks. So for us to get 10 minutes from the astronauts, plus a little extra time to set up and come down, is a real honor and a real advantage. Robert, would you like to come and just say a few words to the folks? Your headmaster.
Oh boy. Here we are today, finally. In a few minutes, hopefully everything will work as according to plan. I sure do want to give a big thank you on behalf of the trustees, the student body, all of our staff, to North Fulton Amateur Radio League, the wonderful work you do with our school week in and week out, and in events like this, and give us an opportunity to experience science and have real life experiences like trying to talk to the space station as it flies over. We're grateful for your volunteerism and your interest in making it a better community, and I like how you set up the room. The way you prepare and everything else. Everybody enjoy the event, and I look forward to reliving it as the end of the year comes around. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Robert. It looks like we are now about 7 minutes from the what we call AOS. There are a couple terms in satellites that are important to know. One is AOS, that stands for acquisition of signal, and that's when the ISS first appears over the horizon. The other appointed term is LOS, that's loss of signal, and that's when the ISS disappears on the other side of the horizon. This is what we call a line of sight communication. We have to be able to see the ISS to be able to talk to the ISS. So sometimes it's a little bit late in coming up. It isn't late, but we're late in acquiring the signal. And sometimes the signal is a little bit early in leaving. Again, that's all kind of hard to predict. You might hear a lot of static before the contact starts, and at the end, we'll know it's the end because the static will return again. I want to stress that this is an experiment. That's the way we're carried on the NASA manifest, and we never really know when we do this quite exactly if it's going to work or how well it's going to work. So you are really participating in science as you're sitting here, as we work to see exactly how this is going to go. We are about 5 minutes now, it looks like, from the event. The ISS is now over the western part of North America. Notice how it's starting to loop around and head our way. If you notice on the slide, there's a circle. It kind of looks like a bullseye. Technically, they could talk to anyone inside that circle. So from 250 miles up, they could be talking to anyone from the coast of Alaska and out into the Aleutians, clear down to, it looks like, Los Angeles, Baja California. So they could be talking to anyone within that circle. So it's a wonderful platform to be able to talk to people. There's a great book out there if you haven't read it. If you're interested in reading one, it's called Endurance. It's the story of Scott Kelly, who you may have heard about. He was an astronaut who was on the ISS for 1 whole year. He had a twin brother who stayed on the ground, and what they did was they compared health and changes between the two to see what it's like. It's part of what we need to learn to go to Mars, which is the next big experiment, is to see how we can send people to Mars and what will be involved with that. About another minute here, I'm going to turn things over to the radio people, and they will probably start a little bit early calling the ISS. This is always kind of a exciting time for the radio crew, because until they come back, you don't really know exactly where we are with things. So I think with that, Daryl, I'm going to turn the system over to you, and we'll take this down and bring the radio up. And as I said, don't be surprised if what you hear is a lot of static until the ISS comes over the horizon. It is an experiment. There's the static, and let's all cross our fingers and hope for a successful contact. Thank you for your patience and your attendance.
So we do have just a couple more minutes here, as you can see. And we're going to make sure the antenna is moved correctly, and it actually has to go into flip mode so it can pass through what would be north, but it has a north stop. This rotator does, so it's going to flip so it actually thinks it's south, but it'll be pointing north. So that's what Chuck's going to make sure that happens correctly. It's starting to move now. We're actually at minus 4.7 degrees, so a little more than 4 degrees below the horizon right now. I won't call for it until the antenna is pointing to him. And Martha says, yeah, if you're out there, you'd see the antenna actually moving right now. Okay, antenna is looking good. We're just about here. NA1SS, Whiskey Alpha 4, Mike Alpha Sierra. NA1SS, this is Whiskey Alpha 4, Mike Sierra Alpha. Over. NA1SS, this is Whiskey Alpha 4, Mike Sierra Alpha, calling for scheduled contact. NA1SS, this is Whiskey Alpha 4, Mike Sierra Alpha.
And I copy you, Mill Springs Academy. Welcome to the International Space Station. Over.
you very much. NA1SS, stand by for the students.
This is Kevin. How many times have you been around the Earth? Over.
Speaking for Kevin, how many times have you been around the Earth? Over.
That's a good question, and it's about 16 times 150.
This is Will. How long has the space station been in orbit? Over.
The space station has been in orbit and people have been on board since November of 2001. Over.
This is John Keeley. Did you get to see the Tesla Roadster when it was flung into space? Over.
I did not see it in person by looking out the window, but I did have a video sent up on the uplink, and I saw it on TV. Over.
This is Josh, KM4MBK. I'm asking this question on behalf of Bethany in Broadstairs, England. Do you hear the sound of space debris or micrometeorites hitting outside the ISS? Over.
Thank you to our brothers and sisters in England and participating with us today. Thank you. We do not hear the space debris or micrometeorites hitting the outside of the station on a normal basis. I suppose if they were big enough we could, but typically we do not. Over.
This is Lauren asking a question for Ellie. How long does it take to get to the space station and back? Over.
We have launched and rendezvoused in 6 to 8 hours as the quickest yet, and it takes about the same to get back.
This is Tyler asking a question for William. Have you done any experiments that were part of the Toys in Space project? Over.
I have not done any experiments that were part of Toys in Space, but we have a whole compartment full of the toys that we play with frequently, such as gyros and little cups and little beads inside tubes. Over.
This is Drew, KK4WOH, asking a question for Jonathan. Are you growing plants in space? Over.
We are growing plants in space. I spent some time growing lettuce, and I actually harvested and ate the lettuce. It was delicious. And right now we are currently germinating and growing grass. Over.
This is Lydia, and this question is from Cecilia in Broadstairs, England. What is the most interesting experiment that you were involved in at the moment? Over.
The most interesting experiment that I was involved with is Apex, and that is where we grew lettuce from just seeds. We grew them up into big, mature lettuce, and we ate it. Over.
This is Kevin again. Do the NASA dietitians plan a diet for you that has more or fewer calories than what you would consume on Earth? Over.
The NASA diet typically gives us greater calories because we work out a little bit more to keep our bone density at normal Earth levels. Over.
This is Matthew C. asking a question for Luke. If you could have any flavor or any kind of ice cream treat, what would it be, and would it have to come in a squeeze pouch? Over.
No, in fact, we have Klondike bars and Snickers ice cream bars up here in our freezer, and we have a couple of those a week, usually on the weekends when we're celebrating. Over.
This is Lauren asking a question for Shira. What is the weirdest thing that has happened to you in space? Over.
Well, the weirdest thing is I hit my head. I wasn't paying attention, and I scraped my head on the hatch, and I gave myself a nice little bump. Over.
This is Matthew W. Do you sleep with straps around your body? Over.
No, I do not. I have a sleeping bag that I crawl into and I zip it up, and that keeps me from floating around. The sleeping bag is lightly strapped to the wall so that I don't float away. Over.
This is Josh again. This question is from Isabel in Broadstairs, England. What is the most difficult part of your training as an astronaut? Over.
The most difficult part of the training as an astronaut is the multiple disciplines that we have to perfect, we have to be good at. There's an awful lot to know, and there's an awful lot to be good at. Over.
This is Drew again. Have you met any of the Mercury, Gemini, or Apollo astronauts? Over.
I have. I've met several of them. They're all great folks, and they have some really good stories. Over.
This is Tyler again. What was your motivation to go and to be an astronaut? Over.
When I was growing growing up, I saw our country walk on the moon, and that got it inspired me to be interested in the area of space travel, and it was very exciting. Over.
This is Josh again, asking this question for Max. How do you scrub CO2 in space? Over.
Well, we have systems that bring in the air, and then they scrub it to take out the CO2 with filters, and then they spit out the cleaned oxygen the clean air into the cabin, and those systems are running 24/7.
This is Lydia again. What's your advice to people dreaming of becoming involved in NASA space programs? Over.
My advice is to get a really good education. Find a good STEM-type discipline that you want to be involved in, and work really hard at it and be good at it. And we would love for you to come be part of our family. Over.
This is Lauren. How old were you when you got your call sign? Over.
I think I was 28 years old. Over.
This is Luke. Did you watch the Super Bowl? Over.
We did watch the Super Bowl. We had it playing up on the big screen. We had a work day that day, so we had to work. But as we floated by, we were able to take looks. Over.
This is Matthew C. again. What has been your favorite pastime on the ISS? Why is it so special to you? Over.
My favorite pastime is communicating with the folks on the Earth, because it gives me a few moments to tell them what I see, how I feel, and how beautiful the Earth looks from up in space. Over.
This is Josh again, asking this question for William. Are there different climate conditions such as temperature and humidity in different rooms on the ISS? Over.
They can make different settings and different modules that we have, but they're all interconnected, so they all kind of tend to hover around the same humidity, the same CO2 levels, and the same temperature. But you can see differences if you push, say for example, Columbus's cooling systems and HVAC systems. If you push them really hard, then you will see slightly different numbers as opposed to what we see in the lab. Over.
This is Drew again. This is a question from a Purdue grad on our ham radio support team. What memory of Purdue sticks in your mind? Over.
Go ahead and try it again.
We have a Purdue grad on our ham radio support team, and we want to know what memory of Purdue sticks in your mind.
I'm sorry, folks, you're garbled, and I think we're going past the acquisition of signal. We're going to loss of signal now. I just want to thank you, Mill Springs Academy, for being on board with me today. You made my day. Thank you.
Thank you, NA1SS, Whiskey Alpha 4, Mike Sierra Alpha, over.
Well, there you have it. A successful contact. Congratulations to all of you. What a wonderful event. I do want to thank the students who put together and asked the questions. I know they worked very hard. I also know they missed a fair number of lunch periods practicing, and I want to thank them for that. Robert, Martha, MS faculty and staff, thank you for your cooperation. Daryl and Lori, thank you for being our radio team. Chuck and Patrick, thank you for running the soundboard for us. Nathan, thanks for the live scene. And Mike, thank you very much for your work with the video systems. And audience, thank you for your attention, and I hope you found this a very memorable experience. This is K4SQC, John Clute, in ham radio terms saying 7-3's best wishes, and thank you for coming.
All right, folks, is this on?
Go. Yes, Patrick, turn you off.
Yeah, they're done. Hopefully they're done.
No pictures, no pictures. No pictures. No pictures. Wonderful.